Okay, let's get started. So it's good to see so many friends and colleagues here. Special thanks to all of you who have traveled from far and wide to come here. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Sriram Rajamani. I'm the director of Microsoft Research India, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all. The attendees for this workshop include academia from all over the world, labs, NGOs and startups, and you'll hear from all of this cross-section of people over the next today and tomorrow. So this workshop started in a conversation with Narahari, Milind, and myself. In fact, actually, you held a similar workshop earlier this year, April. And then this was a follow-on conversation from that. And Amit Sharma, he joined us. You also know him. He has a PhD from Cornell, and he just joined Microsoft Research 2 weeks ago. And he wanted to take a break between his stay in the US and here, and we asked him to organize his workshop during the break. And he thankfully did a wonderful job. So thanks to Amit for doing that. And then you all must have met Satish, Sid, and Chris, who would have been in touch with you. So as far as I'm concerned, my goals are to really get to know you, get to know each other and each other's work, and establish collaborations, particularly interdisciplinary ones. And it's, I'm very grateful that, that the gathering here consists of not only computer scientists, but social scientists, and even within computer science, various disciplines of computer science. And I'm hoping that this gathering will set the foundation for future meetings. And more broadly, that we can get at least some conversation started on framing this topic on what AI and social good actually means, and come up with an ambitious agenda for ourselves. So that's actually my hope from this, and I'm hoping that for most of you, that's the hope in coming to this workshop. The format of the workshop is there's going to be brief presentations and panel discussions. All talks are going to be short, so we want to focus more on discussion rather than presentations. And these are focus areas that the committee has put together. I think there's fascinating talks, and each of them have talks with people from very, very diverse perspectives. I want to say a little bit about Microsoft Research India's own journey in this space, though we didn't call it AI for social good. We'll say more about that later. So we've been working on technologies for development for over 12 years now, from the inception of the lab. And societal impact has been a core DNA of the lab from its founding. Here are examples of things we have done over the years. We have experts thinking about even understanding users, even thinking about interventions of projects. We have people who study users in its own right? We have some of the world's leading work on how to think about user interfaces for illiterate and semi-literate users, people like Indrani Mehdi. More recently, we have people like Jackie O'Neill, who studies workers in modern work platforms like Ola and Uber. And this is just ethnographic studies where people just sit with these users and sort of imbibe what they are facing, right? More like a pure science. That's how I sort of think about this work. And we have done work in health. Many of you might know about Bill Thies's work in 99 Dots. Transparency is an area that we've been recently getting into. Education, employment, agriculture. Digital Green was an NGO that was spun, incubated out of our lab, the connectivity and so on. So this is our background in this space. And in this workshop, you will hear the talks that are highlighted in red, the automobile one, Karya, which is dignified digital labor. Colin Scott will give the talk. Farm Beats, which is a technologies for precision agriculture. Akshay is going to give the talk. You'll hear some of our work in this workshop. I think of particular fascination to me is actually how to scale these things, right? But there's one thing to actually do a research project in a lab, and the other one is to deploy it. And when that happens, we learn a lot more than just being in the lab. And I'm very proud to say that our lab has scaled. There's always a ratio between this list, and that's by design. I mean, it's very hard to actually, we think about several things, but only a small number of them we can even attempt, and even a smaller fraction of them actually make it and become scale. So Digital Green was spun off as an NGO in 2008. It actually runs in thousands of villages in India and all over the world now. Rikin Gandhi is the CEO of that organization. 99 Dots was spun off into a for-profit company, Everwell. Interesting. You could actually ask Bill as to why he spun it off into a for-profit company. I don't know where So I think Bill will walk in, I think, later today. MEC was an online learning platform that we built, and it's being productized by Microsoft. It's called Sangam. They've integrated with LinkedIn. And even though we started it for undergraduate education, it is now being productized for skilling and for blue-collar labor. Similarly, IVR Junction, multi-mouse. So these are things that we have managed to scale. And this is one of the reasons why we invited entrepreneurs, because part of the scaling involves not just science, but entrepreneurship. I wanted to say a little bit about what we have learned in the process, which is sort of the step back from all these projects that we've done. And here are insights, which is, in some sense, right, our view has shifted from how can new technology help to how can old and existing technology help. In particular, Bill Thies has coined this term as frugal innovation. And he thinks about things that are everyday things like paper as technology to help solve these very difficult problems. And this is actually Indrani's perspective, where we sort of gone away from thinking about illiteracy as just inability to read and write to a lack of cognitive skills, which is a much more deeper understanding of the problem if you want to reach and be inclusive about technologies. And I won't go through all of them. Another thing of particular interest is actually thinking about poor as just not consumers of information that just simply receive information from us, but as really producers of information, and for us to learn from each other and not just disseminate information to them. And topics like, projects like Digital Green, IVR Junction are really about hearing from this population rather than just telling to that population. And thinking about technology not only in terms of needs like health and education, which is sort of altruistic in us to help people, but really think about the population as one which has aspirations and thinking about their wants. Things like entertainment, employment, which are really much more wants, and sort of having that distinction in mind. And really creating a scientific discipline in this space is also extremely important. And I know Milind has more to talk about that as well. And so the community that we are part of, we started a conference called ICTD, which MSR India was integrally involved in creating. And the next ICTD is going to happen in Pakistan next month. And it started out in Berkeley in 2006. It was held in Bangalore in 2007, and so on. And this is the community where we come from, right? So I want to say something about my use of the term AI, where sort of, I sort of think about this as tech for good evolving into cloud for good, and drum rolls, please. I think now we have sort of AI for good. But I think, but in all reality, I also think that AI has significant things to offer in this space. If I think about speech, natural language understanding, I think they are just so key to reach this community. When I hear Milind present about his work on social network analysis, recommendation systems, I see actually so many possibilities for algorithms from AI, and it's already happening. And there's a lot more potential. And also, I think AI has become such a core discipline that I think it has become not only just its algorithms and logical reasoning and so on and statistics and so on, but I sort of view AI as sort of a more interdisciplinary area which interacts with all areas of computer science as well as social sciences. So in my talk, I hope if you're core AI, you'd forgive this sort of my broad use of the term. And I know that in conversations with Milind, Eric, and Narahari, I think we all share that passion that this is more an interdisciplinary work rather than AI in its core. I wanted to show this slide for why I think such a workshop is timely right now and why we are holding it in India. Because it's been now 12 years or so since I returned from the US, and I've seen technology adoption in India accelerating. Digital technology is pushed by the government on a massive scale. Aadhaar now has about 1 billion people enrolled, even though a lot of us have concerns about security, privacy, and so on. There's 1 billion people enrolled in Aadhaar. And there's something called India Stack. So these are all things that are societal scale technologies that the government is pushing. And if I look at businesses, right, gone are the days where our country was mainly doing services for the West, but we are now building consumer products targeting the same population that we want to work with. An intense competition there. And during this process of actually thinking about AI and social good, I've actually been talking with several impact investors. I mean, right near my office, there is actually Omidyar Network, and several others who do something called impact investing, where their goal is to actually not get just returns, but also social returns, which they measure in terms of impact, which is very interesting. Another thing that's interesting is that in India, there's a law, that's the Companies Act, which mandates that every company give away 2% of its profits, and we don't give it to the government, we decide how to spend it. And that, I think, has also spawned off lots of activity in this area. So I want to say a little bit about possible models of collaboration. This is based on our own experience working with the community. So in the past, we used to have summer schools where we used to get lecturers from all over the world, mainly to help educate students. We are now thinking about how to transform that into not just a one-way lecture style, but more as a collaboration. And last year, we did a summer school in IoT, I think at IISc. I mean, this was done at IISc, where in addition to the lectures, what we did was we recruited some of the students to not only after the lectures, come spend the entire summer with us. So people, a subset of the students who attended the summer school spent an entire summer with us. And in fact, two of the projects that you're going to hear today, the one on road safety and precision agriculture, were actually started with those students in the workshop. This summer, we went even a step further, and we did a summer school on artificial social intelligence, right? Where, as part of the summer school, as the call for the summer school, in addition to students, we invited proposals from faculty to do projects. And there was a committee that reviewed those proposals, and we selected 4 of those projects. And the faculty and the students as a team spent an entire month with us at MSRI, in addition to having lectures. And then, on top of that, actually, after 1 month, we had a jury, and I think Narahari was kindly served in the jury. And we reviewed those projects, and we picked 2 to fund later, right? So Preeti Jyoti's project on accent adaptation from ASR system, she's from ID Bombay. And this project by Saptarshi on utilizing social media, we continue to fund those projects, and they collaborate with us, right? So I'm saying these things, and it's another example of things that we're doing is actually a virtual center. Suddenly, I find there's a lot of cryptographers in India. I think that's good. So we decided to form a crypto center where and in all of these, we put our money behind all of these things, so that we sort of not think about just dissemination, but really collaboration. So these could be models of projects that come out of this discussion. There are various mechanisms for us to support them, right? So that's all I have, and I just want to end with goals, and I'm really looking forward to learning. Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you all for coming. Yeah.